Hi there, welcome to another radio video from TDCatTech. Today I'm looking at this. This is the RB618 walkie-talkie from Retevis. This is the PMR 446 variant. The FRS version of this would be the RB18, so just drop the 6 from the model number and you are generally doing all right as far as Retevis walkie-talkies are concerned. This is something a little bit different from Retevis in its kind of design and the things it has on it. So let's take a closer look at the radio first of all. Then I'm going to take a look at the programming software. Then I'm going to do a quick audio test of the radio, and finally we'll do a very localized but short range test of the radio as well to see how it performs up against the Motorola XT420, which is my kind of go-to walkie-talkie and kind of the reliable one that always gets the job done. So we'll compare the two, put the two side by side and just check whether the range is identical or better. First things first, let's take a quick look around the radio and I'll give you a quick review of the things that I like and don't like on this style of radio as I go along. Feel free to agree or disagree. So the first thing that you notice is this is a radio with a display on. Not all radios have a display on. They don't really need to have a display on, but it isn't a bad addition. I don't mind a display on a radio as long as it's not going to impact battery life. It is quite nice to be able to see, you know, what's going on at a glance, just be able to see what channel you're on at a glance. This one also has a push to talk button on the top. And for one, I'm not too sure what the benefit of that is. I guess you can use it flat on a surface like that and just kind of push it down like that and be able to talk, you know, rather than pushing at the side and push it along. So yeah, I suppose it does open up options, but then again, it also does open up the possibility of this being pressed in your pocket. But it does also have a lock button on here too, so you can press and hold down that for 3 seconds and it locks these buttons, but it doesn't lock the push to talk button. So let's just turn it on. And it has the usual kind of Retevis voice, which seems to be different on every radio, but is never quite perfect. I mean, it'd be really great, wouldn't it, if they just got a kind of really clear voice to kind of just give the channel numbers out, because they're always a bit weird.
13, 12, 11, 10.
One great thing that I've noticed on the radio is that this flashes when it's on. And I, for one, love that. It's something that I love on the Motorola's that I use. They flash continuously when they're on. They have various other combinations of flashes as well. But when they're on, they do that. It's kind of a Motorola thing, I think. All their kind of mobile phones used to do that, or probably maybe they still do that. I don't know. But this is really, really handy. You can just glance at it from a distance and think, did I leave the radio on? Yes, because I can see it flashing there in the distance. Push to talk round the side here, just a little button. It's absolutely fine. Easy enough to press, works okay. On the top, we have just the on, off and volume button. And then there is also a light on this as well, which is kind of handy. I like that. I mean, you just tap the lamp button like that and you get a nice sort of LED coming on, but it's nothing flash, you know. It doesn't work terribly well. It's not going to light a room for you or whatever, but it will show you your way if you really need it. The display goes off after a couple of seconds, and let's have a look at what the display shows. So first of all, you can see that it gives us our channel number, and it also gives us a permanent indication of our signal there as well. If I transmit, you get a little TX. I'll just zoom in on this a little bit so you can see it a bit clearer. So if I transmit, get a little TX symbol there coming up, and if I receive, you get an RX symbol come up, and you also get a sort of meter, but it's not relative to any kind of signal or anything like that. Also, you can see, I think, there we go, you can see, so you can see the way I've programmed it here. I've done 9 to 16 as open channels. They've got no CTCSS or DCS code on, but these channels do. So you can immediately see that from this that I've got a CTCSS code. There's no way of seeing which one and what tone you're using, sorry, but you can see that there is one programmed on that particular channel. So again, a little bit of extra information, which is nice to have. Monitor button can just obviously opens up the squelch. And speaker there. Speaker itself is pretty tinny. When I first got these, I thought to myself, oh, this isn't, you know, these are really, really harsh sounding, really tinny sounding. But the speaker does sound harsh, but it is quite intelligible. It's easy enough to understand and it's perfectly okay. So although I did think it might be a bit harsh to start with, I've changed my mind on that. And the accessory port around the side is standard. So if you've got a normal Retevis programming cable, it will work okay in there. Battery around the back. Now, This is one of the things I don't particularly like about the radio. The belt clip is really poor quality. I mean, it's just attached. In fact, I'll grab my other radio because I have attached the belt clip to that one. This is plastic. It has no kind of little hook on here to stop it coming off like a belt or something like that. It's not often you get a little looped round hook there to stop that happening. Nothing like that. Just a single screw, plastic clip. And the first one, the reason this one isn't on is because I screwed it up and the screw just completely popped out and just never worked again. It just kind of threaded the bit in here I don't know. It ruined the screw anyway, and it just doesn't work very well. So the belt clip on this is a weak area of the radio. The battery itself is 1000 milliamp hour, 3.7 volt, lithium ion cell, standard stuff. It's only 1000 milliamp hour, but my experience with the Retevis RT622s and RT22s is that it does okay. You know, it's not fantastic charge amount, but it does the job. It's enough for a small radio like this. It's only half a watt, so it's fine. And we do still have, although I kind of get the sense that this is almost like from a different manufacturer. You know, the Retevis radio is obviously badged and stuff. Like, you know, you get them made from one manufacturer and then they might come out under various different names. I get the sense that although this has this sort of really nice Retevis back to it, this metal plating on the back, it almost feels like it is from a different sort of area, different manufacturer. But yeah, still nice. Still got your nice kind of weather sealing here around the battery, and it's a solid enough radio for $15 to $20, £15-20. You can't go too wrong with a radio like this. Okay, so other things that I like the sort of retro green display. I think they've chosen a good color with that green. That's a nice choice. Also, the other thing I don't like on this, if you have the beep enabled, you can have a Roger beep on this, and you can also have a beep when you press the buttons. Nice to have, so you can hear positive sort of sound when you press this thing. But the sound and the level of the Roger beep turns up as you turn the volume up. So a lot of the time, I'll put a radio on, and if I'm going to be picking someone up, I'll just turn it up to full and just back it off a little bit. So I know that I'm always going to be able to hear them. Problem is, every time I press a button on the radio, the beep is unbelievably loud. It's ridiculous. And the Roger beep, every time I unkey or when someone comes back to me, is just stupidly loud too. The beep needs to stay at a background level, so something you can hear but not hear that loud, and not come over the top of everything else. Crazy. I don't know why they've done it like that, but hopefully that's something they can easily change in software. Also, I noticed that this little label here is kind of raised up, and look, you can see it's already kind of scuffing off a little bit there. He says picking it off. Already kind of scuffed off a bit there, and that's because this label is just slapped on. It's just raised up from the rest of the body. Most of the time, Retevis stuff has a label that's sunk, recessed into the body, and looks much, much more part of the radio, as in it makes it look like it was made by Retevis rather than just a third-party thing that's been badged. Other than that, it's okay. It's what you'd expect for a $15 to $20 pound radio. It's all right, yeah. Weak belt clip. Don't like the beep on the radio, but apart from that, it's all right. You know, it does the job, and at least it stands up. The charging is done through micro USB here, which is a bit of a weak spot, I suppose, because it has an open port there at the bottom of the battery. But of course, it does mean that you can use any USB charger, and it does mean that you can just charge these batteries completely separate from the radio, which is nice. All right, so enough talk about the radio. You've seen the radio. God. You've seen the radio. You know what that's like. Let's take a look at the programming software next. The programming software can be found on the support area of the product page. I think rather than having a main support page, they do have a individual kind of support area for each product. I guess that's why they have. It's because they have all these millions of different types of software. Right, so here's our RB618 programming software. It's a bit different, isn't it? It looks a little bit different. And that's, again, sort of backs up my thought that this is maybe... Is this taken from something else? Or is this from a different manufacturer? So I'm really not so sure. CPS. I don't know. It's just different, isn't it? So I'm going to have a look, see what my communication port settings are. COM5, it's found COM5. I think that's probably right. Go to read data from device, and I have already reprogrammed this. I'll show you that in a second. So that's going in no problem with the standard programming cable. Good. And there we are. It's brought up my information. Okay, so the main thing that I want to tell you from this is that our TX power here, at least as far as I can tell, is locked. Don't know whether that's going to be a deal breaker for everybody, but I know for some people they do like to increase the TX power from 0.5 watts on Retevis radios to 2 watts because you do have the option, maybe just a couple of the channels raised to 2 watts. You can't do it. You're stuck on low power on these radios. So unless there's some kind of other way of getting into this software that I'm not aware of, this is a grayed out limitation. And other than that, it's pretty standard stuff. You know, you've got your squelch here, which I've reduced to 2. You've got your timeout timer in seconds, and then you've got scan options on the radio, and whether you have the voice on or not, and which language it's in. And then you have your squelch tail elimination here, which you can just set on. There's no options for that. It's just either kind of on or off. And battery save option. Battery save, by the way, is it does work because I've monitored it on power meters and things like that, and you can see that the power that the unit uses, so the current that's drawn by the unit, drops off over a period of time. So and then just does occasional blips. So battery save does work. However, it can delay the amount of time it takes for the radio to wake up. So if someone only does a really, really short transmission and starts talking straight away, battery save can inhibit your ability to hear that in full. But it's generally fine. So most of the time I would just suggest leave it on. Beep. As I mentioned, I've turned it off because I don't want that massively loud squawk coming in my ear. You got Vox on here too, so those options are available. And the transmit end tone, so that's the Roger beep I was talking about too. Any other stuff on here? Don't think there is really. Other than that, it is just a case of programming in the frequencies and the CTCSS codes as well. And I'm just looking on here. Why can't I change? Oh, no, of course I can't. No, I can't even change the frequencies on here. So although it says at the bottom here, 400 to 480 megahertz, this is locked out in software. So I cannot change this from the PMR 446 frequencies. So really the only things I can change here are the bandwidth from narrow to wide, which of course should be set to narrow for PMR 446, whether the channel's in the scan list, whether there's a busy lock option on, so if there's already someone transmitting on there, you can't then transmit. And I don't know what jump code is. Not sure. What jump code? Never seen that before. And and CTCSS. So I've got 8 channels set to 107.2, and then I've got the other 8 set to just open. So no CTCSS at all. Fine. There you go. There's the programming software for the RB618. Let's go on to the audio test. The way I'm going to test the audio today is by taking the headphone out, directly out of the RB618 here, and recording it straight onto this little device here, the UX570. So yeah, all the audio that you're getting, although I'm going to be transmitting from different radios, it's all getting received on the RB618. So let's get started. I'm going to start recording on there, and I'm going to start with the 618 going to the 618.
This is an audio test of the RB618 from a distance of 2 centimeters from the microphone. And this is this test of the RB618 from a distance of about 10 centimeters from the microphone. 1, 2, 1, 2.
All right, let's move to the Motorola XT420.
This is a test of the Motorola XT420 from a distance of 2 centimeters from the microphone. And this is a test of the Motorola XT420 from about 10 centimeters from the microphone. I guess this kind of distance gives you much better opportunity to hold the radio properly from, having the antenna upright and clear from, away from your body. Probably doesn't sound quite so good though.
Next, the Retevis, the very well-known and very well-used Retevis RT24.
This is the Retevis RT24 from a distance of 2 centimeters from the microphone. And this is the Retevis RT24 at a distance of 10 centimeters from the microphone.
And finally, we'll go with the Retevis RT1, so on PMR channel 3 at about 7 watts.
This is the Retevis RT1 at a distance of 2 centimeters from the microphone. And this is the Retevis RT1 at a distance of 10 centimeters from the microphone.
There we go. What do you think? Put some comments down below which one you think sounds the best. I haven't listened to these before. I haven't analysed the audio file. I haven't done anything with it yet. I'm doing this effectively live, as it were. So yeah, let me know in the comments which one you think sounds the best. I did promise you a range test, didn't I? But I did say at the start that it was going to be a, what was the word I used? A kind of limited range test, or localized. Oh, localized, that was the word that I used, wasn't it? And what I mean by that is that I'm going to intentionally cripple the reception side. So I'm going to leave one of the radios just inside this room here, surrounded basically by pretty thick brick walls in this house. And it's really not a good room for receiving any kind of signal. My mobile phone gets like nothing, and honestly, it won't do well in here. So this isn't a range test in the sense of how far can it go, because I know that if I were to go up on a hill 10 miles away, I'd be able to pick up these radios if I've got line of sight. That's not the what's in question here. It's how it compares to something else. So I'm going to record it, and I'm going to just step away and go 20 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters away, something like that. And I'm going to compare directly, as I mentioned, with the XT420, because I know this performs well for a PMR 446 radio. I mean, I'm not saying it's tons better. It is my favorite radio. I'm not saying it's loads better. It just does well. It's competent. And as a result, I'm going to just kind of go, as I say, 100 meters away, something like that. Hopefully by then, one or both of them will have completely gone, and you can get a direct comparison, maybe I'll take another one as well, between radio 1, radio 2 and radio 3. Not in the BBC sense, of course.
Local test transmission on the RB618 from 1 meter. Local test on the XT420 from 1 meter. Test transmission of the RB618 from a distance of 20 meters. 20 meters on the RB618. Test transmission of the XT420 at a distance of 20 meters. Over. Test transmission of the RB618 at 50. RB618 at 50. Over. Test transmission of the XT420 at 50. That's the XT420 at 50. Test transmission of the RB618 at 100 meters. The RB618 at 100 meters. Over. Test transmission of the XT420 at 100 meters. XT420 at 100 meters. Over. Test transmission of the RB618 at 150. That's the RB618 at 150 at 1331. Test of the Motorola XT420 at 150. XT420 at 150 at 1331.
So this isn't a standard range test, I will give you that. Some of you will probably prefer it done another way. The reason I did it this way is, well, two things really. One, it's very reproducible, i.e. I can do exactly the same test accurately with other radios and be able to just compare those results precisely with each other. And that to me is very useful. Secondly, it's a worst case scenario. We know from previous tests I've done, previous videos, these radios can cover tens of kilometers given the right conditions. And on the box they say 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, whatever. But under normal circumstances, under worst case circumstances, this is one radio in a room surrounded by thick brick walls and the other radio at pretty much ground level, so head level, I suppose, so 1.6 meters, but again in a built-up area. It's a worst-case scenario. If you get this radio, it will perform that well, and it's not that good, is it? I mean, it really shows the limitations of PMR 446 on half a watt. Both radios, the XT420 and the RB618, were useless at 200 meters and 300 meters. 150 meters, not a problem. But that's quite a lot of coverage still. If you think of kind of a warehouse or something like that, 150 meters is still good coverage. I would have to say that the higher audio level, the higher modulation of the XT420 does it the world of good, because as soon as that signal noise comes up, and you notice that particularly at the 150 meter test there, the noise levels were about the same, suggesting the signal on both radios is identical, totally to be expected. But the 420, absolutely the best one to understand, because the 618 is just a bit too quiet and a bit too in the background. So for £15, 15 to £20, you can't go wrong with this radio. If you're looking for something fairly compact, it's fine. If you need a display, it's got a nice little display on it. I think there are better radios you could buy if you're willing to put in an extra £5 or £10. The RT24, for example, far better audio quality. You can hear from the test there. Just sounds loads clearer on air than the 618. The belt clip on this, I was thinking earlier, when I took this out to do the range test, I was thinking this belt clip is not only fragile, it is horrible, because there's no way of pressing here to lift it up. So you can't get your finger underneath it to hook it on to whatever you want to hook it onto. And once it's hooked on, normally there's a little button, you can just press to kind of release this like this and take it off again. You can't do it. It's just a useless belt clip. So if you do need to use it with a belt clip, this isn't the radio for you. They need to sort out the problem with the beep as well, because not being able to have the radio on full volume without that beep being full volume is just insane. But range-wise, performs absolutely fine. If you're using this kind of just within a fairly local kind of area, not a problem. It's compact, it's got the nice little stubby antenna on, which clearly works okay. And yeah, it's a fine radio for £15. I'll put links in the description, and if you would like one of these, check out those links. And if you'd like to support the channel, check out those links anyway. You don't have to buy anything. Just next time you're on Amazon, click on those links, or click on the links on our donate page on the website. So TDCat.com/donate, and you can click on the Amazon links there, and that will support the channel too, if you feel like it. If not, that's fine too. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.